Director here at SVBC, and I oversee programs in advocacy. And maybe I will actually we have quite a few staff with us tonight. So why don't we start with John? You can introduce yourselves, and then we'll go through everyone else.
Hello, everyone. John Cordes, Santa Clara County Advocate.
And assign someone else.
Oh, sorry. Asani.
Hello, I'm Deputy Director overseeing communications and member engagement, our corporate sponsors and all that good stuff.
Pick somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm the Membership and Outreach Coordinator. So I do things like emails and managing people's memberships. So it's very fun. I get to see a lot of people and read a lot of names. And I'm going to pass it off to Shiloh. You're muted, Shiloh.
Of course.
There's got to be at least one of us. Hello, I'm Shiloh. I get to run the Bike Coalition and work with all these great folks like Tim.
Thanks, Shiloh. I'm Tim, and I'm the event manager, but I'm actually here as a volunteer tonight, not in my staff capacity. So I am in Sunnyvale, and I'm really trying to make biking better in Sunnyvale on the BPAC there and doing zero waste stuff. And I'll say, do I now pass it on to someone else who's not a staff person? We're gonna keep going that way?
No, I think that's, if anyone else from staff is here, say now. I don't think there is, but for the rest of you, please introduce yourself in our chat box. You can share your name, you can share something fun that you're looking forward to cook. That's always my favorite topic conversation. And the city that you live in. And then also remember, you can also change your display name to include your city, and that's helpful for us when we move into breakout rooms. Oh, okay, so now I will go over the agenda. We actually have a pretty packed schedule. I'll be giving a presentation. Jessica will also be presenting, and we have some guest speakers here tonight from Surge at Sacred Heart. So we want to get on to their presentation, and then as usual you will break into your breakout groups at 6 o'clock and cover usual business as well as some of the topics you hear tonight. And before we get started, I wanted to make a couple announcements. So many of you already know that Sandhya is on maternity leave. She had her baby a couple weeks ago now, so that's very exciting for her. Yay, Sandhya. She will be back from May to August, and then she'll be taking a couple more months off after that. So just wanted to give you a heads up of her schedule. And then in other news, John Cordes will be retiring at the end of May. And it's super sad news for us, but he has assured us that he will keep volunteering and advocating. So I'm sure this is not going to be the last you'll see. I mean, that May won't be the last you'll see of him, but he'll chat with you all more about that in your breakouts. And we have a job posting up on our website now. So if you know anyone who might be interested in John's role, please share that. And we're very happy for John and his wife for their retirement. And finally, we have another staffing announcement. We have Chelsea Bicklin is joining the team next week. And some of you may know her from, she did Cupertino Safe Routes to School coordination for several years. She'll be doing some advocacy work in San Jose as well as some programs work. So lots of changes going on, but all good stuff. Okay. Just a refresher of our meeting guidelines. Please be respectful of one another, make space, take space, don't interrupt, stay on topic, all those good things. I want to make sure we're welcoming to everyone. And I kind of already went over this. I think most of you know the drill by now, but please remember to mute yourself, use the chat. We are checking that regularly, and it's helpful to include your city and preferred pronouns. Always a reminder that we are committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have a full plan and lots of things that we're doing. You can find out more on our website about that, but it's really important as we're talking about what we'll be talking about tonight, which is growing your team, which We want to make sure that the environment that we're creating in our teams is welcoming to everyone, and that we're reaching out beyond ourselves and the people that we normally associate with as individuals, and just thinking about other age groups, demographics, races, ethnicities, types of bicyclists, all that good stuff. I also just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge all that's going on in the world right now, particularly the violence and hate against Asian Americans. It's really upsetting and unacceptable. So just know that SVBC is supportive of the Asian American community. Oops. Okay, so on to the topic du jour, why it's important to grow your team. Just a few things. I mean, this is a common saying that I think Shiloh uses all the time. And so I wanted to include it here, but it's really true. You also sometimes see the little fish made up a lot of little fish. It's really important to just have more people. And this helps when you're talking with city councils, talking to staff people. They want to know, how many people do you represent? Are you a small group of just a few people, or are you representing a bigger mass of people behind you? And so we often say that in our letters, and when we're talking with elected officials, we represent more than just our small staff. Diversity, I already mentioned this, but it's really important to be representing all types of bicyclists. So there's people who ride in the hills, there's people who ride to work, there's people who ride to the grocery store, there's people who can only ride a couple miles or ride tricycles, they come in all shapes and sizes. So we want to be representative of all those interests. And then accountability. So as you all are working on your work plans and campaigns, you'll notice that there's lots of things to be done, and it's easier to do it with more people on your team, and you can all take responsibility for different components, and that will help get more work done. So that's great. Okay, I have a little poll for you all, and we'll launch that now. So just think back, how did you get involved with SVBC? How did you first hear about us? Why did you stay involved? And keep thinking about these as we go through the presentation and as you talk with your groups about ways to do outreach, because what worked for you can also work for other people. And I'll just give you a few moments to look at those questions and fill them out. We got 50% of the vote in.
It's ticking up. 2/3.
Question 3, it's a real horse race. Everybody likes everything. I'm especially proud of those people who say they have tasks to complete. They want to get stuff done. Yeehaw.
That's good. Okay, we're just waiting for a few more people. And I'm going to close it in 2 seconds. All right, Monday now. Okay, so looks like, wow, almost no one heard about SVBC through email. So mostly it was through an event, a friend, another group, or other. So I'd be interested in what those others are if you want to share that in the chat. Why did you get involved in the local teams? Most people said that they wanted to make change in your community, our community. Also, high is interest in advocacy, which is cool, a bit similar. All of them ranked pretty high. And then what has made you keep coming back? Educational opportunities was the winner. Have tasks to complete, social aspect. So great, these are all really awesome. But yeah, like I said, just keep thinking about this. Oh, did I not share those? Sorry. There you go, now you can see them. And think about those as you're making a plan for your team. Okay. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about how we bring people in already and what exists, so you can get an idea for the systems that the local teams can plug into. So either a person attends an SVBC event like all of you have done, or they hear about us some other way, they become a member, or they hear about the local teams and they sign up for the email group. So each of these triggers a process, and they're contacted whether by Jessica often or some of our program staff or advocacy staff, whoever has led the event that they've been involved in, they send an email and we ask people to become members. We ask them to, they get signed up onto our mailing list. And we also are already sending info about the local team, so about all of you guys, because we want people to get more involved. That's the goal, get more involved and tell others and bring more people in. So that's kind of what's already happening. And we have just, I'll get more into this, but we have a ton of events that we're doing, and just like these touches that are happening, like Bike to Work Day, the bike ride workshops, the bike rides themselves, and those attract people that are just completely new to our group, and we can pull those in and get them activists, to be activists. So this is just an outline of what I'll be covering. Don't worry about reading it all now, because I'll be going over this in the next few slides. But when we share out these slides afterwards, I wanted it all to be in one place. But overall, like, we want outreach to be a big part of your team and what your work plan and your goals. And really, we want you to leverage the existing events and activities of SVBC. So you're not recreating the wheel, you're already plugging into what we're doing. This is good for us because we're already working on these things. So it creates efficiency, and you're capitalizing also on this built-in audience that we have. People we know are already interested in biking. And then we also just want you to work on the personal side of things, that one-on-one outreach. I know our speakers will talk a little bit more about that, because that really is what brings people in. And then, like I said, we want to be super intentional about bringing in diverse voices and experiences. So that will also dictate like how and where you do your recruiting. You're going to get different people if you go, on a recreational route stop versus somewhere like a market or, a bikeway in the community where there's different type of riders. So just be mindful of that as you're thinking through your strategies. So now I will turn it over to Jessica, who you heard from earlier. And Jessica, just let me know when you want me to advance your slides.
Great, thank you, Emma. Hi, everyone. So first things first, I want to start with, in case you missed it, my name is Jessica. My pronouns are she, her. I work at SVBC as the Membership and Outreach Coordinator. Right now, SVBC has 1,620 members. I know because I check this number obsessively. Our goal is to have 1,875 by the end of the year. For some context, we cover, I think Emma, is about 35 cities and towns, 36 cities and towns.
36.
San Francisco Bike Coalition, which covers one city/town, has 10,000 members. And so I would love to get our numbers closer to that if we can, which we can and we will. So first of all, here is one of our recruitment strategies. If you saw us in the fall, you may have passed by this. We've been doing pop-ups lately. It's a little tricky, I think, because of the social distancing that we have in place and all those things. But basically what we do is we set up alongside a popular cycling route. We have goodies, which this time were Bike to Wear Everyday goodies that didn't get passed out in the spring for obvious reasons. We also right now have gifts for members. We have snacks, we have water, we have information about SVBC. So this is a really great way to introduce people to SVBC. If they already know about us and they're already a member, they get bonus goodies. If they're just stopping by for the first time, they get information, and a lot of people actually will sign up on the spot. So one thought for local teams would be if local teams wanted to set these up in places in their city, where you all know people are passing by or biking frequently, I would be more than happy to either help you set one of these up or just check out the materials to you. It's not super complicated. Most of you know a lot about SVBC and probably know what to tell people. And you can go to the next slide, Emma. Great, thank you. Some other things we have coming up. How many of you are familiar with Bike to Wherever Day? I'm imagining you all raising your hands right now. So Bike to Work Day is every year. This year it's transformed into Bike to Wherever Days because people are, working from home and also biking all over the place these days. This image I have is a map of 2019 Bike to Work Day Energizer stations. For those of you who are not familiar with the terminology, the Energizer stations are the booths that volunteers set up on Bike to Work Day, and they pass out, the musette bags, little tote bags full of SVBC information, as well as other information from like other related groups. And also a lot of these stands often have their own like coffee cake, coffee, fruit that they're giving out to people passing by. It makes the whole day into like a really big celebration. And it's really, I've worked them every year since I've worked here. It's very fun to be a part of. So if local teams are interested in setting up their own Energizer stations during Bike Month, which is May, that might be a great opportunity to catch people in your city who are interested in joining local teams who might not have heard about this. I did see earlier that someone mentioned that actually how they heard about SVBC for the first time was passing by one of these booths. So it is an effective way to bring in some really awesome volunteers and local team members. The other item on this slide is the spring membership drive. So like I mentioned, we have 1,620 members. The more members we have, the more people power we have. And so as part of that, we're having a spring membership drive. For a little bit more context, Bike to Work Day, when we have it on one day, is usually the biggest membership day of the year. About 25% of our membership either joins or renews on that day each year. Without like one single concentrated day, it's a little harder to, get people to sign up on their way to work when we're not going to be there exactly on one day on their way to work. So with this, we're doing a spring membership drive to kind of help make up for that. So if you want to participate in the spring membership drive, it's a peer-to-peer fundraising drive, which means that you would set a goal of how many members you want to bring in. You would recruit among people who bike or who don't bike, who just maybe love SVBC for whatever reason, and bring them in as members. This would also help with the local team. My goal behind the spring membership drive is to make it as easy for you as possible. So like I have copy and paste language that you can use. I have pictures you can use already. I will help you set up your own personal fundraising page as like quickly as you need it. I really want to make it as easy as possible for you because the most convincing way to get someone to join an organization is to be convinced by someone you know and trust. So if you are someone telling your friends you should join SVBC, it's a great group, they care about biking, they're making biking safer and more comfortable, it's much more convincing than like me, a random stranger, like waving them down and asking them to join SVBC. You go to the next slide, Emma. Thank you. And these are some potential strategies that have not happened yet that I would love to discuss with local team leaders and volunteers. One option would be for local team volunteers, I would assume the team leader or someone else who wants to volunteer, to write an appeal letter to potential local team members. So for example, if you are in the Mountain View local team and you wanted to write an email explaining about what the Mountain View local team does, I would help you email that out to all of our members who live in Mountain View, whether or not they're currently part of the local team. Another idea that we haven't done yet would be at the end of each month, I could give each city's local team's team leader like a list of people who have joined SVBC this month that live in their city, so you can personally recruit and outreach to them. Okay, and I think those are all my slides. If you are interested in any of these local team volunteers, please let me know. All of our emails are very easy. My email is jessica@bikesiliconvalley.org. And like Tim said, if you're interested in participating as an Energizer station for Bike to Wherever Days, please email tim@bikesiliconvalley.org.
Thanks, Jessica. And I also just wanted to highlight that Jessica is the creator of all these fun images that you see in our newsletters. And she also very kindly shared a folder of images in the local team Google Drive. So you guys can access that for any like outreach materials that you're using. Cool.
And
so just a few other items like what I was mentioning earlier, we have a ton of events like all the time. And these are things that you guys could join, and like even on Zoom or in person when we get there, you can hop in, you can let us know in advance if you want to attend, and like the upcoming bike workshops, which are more about like everyday biking. If you plan to attend, we can share a list of the people from your city that are attending, and then you can make a point to send them messages during the event and do some outreach that way. And then obviously when we're in person, you can come and talk about your team or join the bike rides and just, connect and network with those people as well. Okay, oops, clicking. And then just some other basic ideas. And a lot of this is in the local team toolkit. If you remember, that's one of the resources that we have on our website. But you know, you have your social media. You can always share out the local teams there, Nextdoor, whatever mailing groups, lists that you're a part of. You know, PTA, neighborhood group, whatever clubs that you're in. Go wild. You can create flyers. I think Jessica was talking a little bit about, we have, you know, lists of our members or all the Google groups themselves. You may not know, but most of them have 100 people or more on them. And those are people that are already, you know, interested in your city and biking and should be coming to the meetings, and that maybe it'll just take that personal outreach to get them there. And also just reaching out to other groups in your town and having them share in their newsletter. Oops, sorry, don't know how to change slides anymore. And then retention is super important too, because once you bring people in, you want to make sure they stay. So that goes to that welcoming environment. Like, how are you engaging new people in each meeting when they arrive? Are you, you know, asking them to introduce themselves, making sure they have a task, and, you know, have those tasks ongoing every time. Those, like I said, personal relationships matter a lot. Keeping people motivated by making sure the work plan is, you're working on it and you have goals, you have tasks, like all those achievable bites of things that keep people coming back to the meetings, which is what you guys said in your poll. And then running efficient meetings, not taking, you know, 3 hours instead of 1 hour, having an agenda, staying on topic, making sure that that's all running smoothly. That'll keep people coming back. And then also having fun. I know it's a little hard to do in this age, but you know, either in person when we can, scheduling rides at, like, we used to all meet for dinner, which was super fun, or ice cream or whatever, like, floats your boat. You know, you guys can talk about it as a group of, like, what's a fun activity you could all do together to create some bonding beyond just doing work. But, you know, balance the work, the tasks and your work plan with having some fun and bonding. And then we worked on creating this campaign template for building your team. And so this has all the strategies that Jessica and I just went over, and it's in your Google Drive folder. So I just put a copy in each of your folders before this meeting. So if you guys want to use this in the second hour to customize and create a plan for your team to grow your membership, this is a useful tool. Okay. I'm not looking at the chat. Has there been any questions, or does anyone have questions now? See John shaking his head.
Just good comments. So, yep, good stuff.
Great. Okay, well then I will move on to welcoming our speakers tonight. We have Sarah Hollingsworth and Lauren Renaud. I'm not sure if that's the correct pronunciation. They're from Surge at Sacred Heart, and they're going to talk more about what that organization is and their strategies for doing outreach and retention as well. So Sarah and Lauren, are you there?
Hey, hello. Thanks so much. This is Sarah, she, her.
Hi, this is Lauren, she, they.
Awesome. I'm going to get us started. We just want to tell you, first of all, thank you for having us. We're really stoked to be here. Both Lauren and I have bikes. We like to ride them. And so this was a great connection. We're also a part of this organization called Surge. So first and foremost, we wanted to just tell you what is Surge. And we promise that the other slides are not this heavy, but we figured this is the only one that I'm just going to read to you so that you can know a little about who we are. We're based out of Sacred Heart Community Center, which is right in downtown San Jose near City Hall. We were founded in 2016, and we're a group of South Bay people who organize, mobilize, and educate white folks for racial justice. Surge believes that white people have a stake in dismantling white supremacy. So if we want to be whole human beings, if we want a robust and inclusive democracy, if we want a loving and just community. So we're part of a multiracial movement, and Surge is a national network that has over 150 chapters and affiliates in 46 states. So there's one here in the South Bay, and the other one that's closest here is based out of Oakland. So it's Oakland Bay area. So there's two ones here in our major Bay area. We work with people of color-led accountability partners to show up in the ways that they request. And we also use a reparations model to redistribute generational wealth. Racial justice and economic injustice are intertwined and interconnected, and we believe we cannot fight for racial equity without working toward economic equity. So that's a little bit about us and what we do. Emma has already laid great groundwork for like, what is organizing? What are we doing? You know, thinking about getting people here and keeping people here, and how do we do that? So we wanted to come in also as another organization that leans heavily towards advocacy and organizing, and drill down into a couple of those topics with you and slow it down and talk about some ways that we do that. So we can go to the next slide. Thank you so much. So getting clear on some terms. Advocacy versus mobilizing versus organizing. Anyone can advocate for something. We can do that as individuals. We can also think about mobilizing. So getting people together for a specific event. Y'all were already talking about a specific event, which is, you know, Bike to Wherever. You know, how do you mobilize people to do this thing on this day? And then when we get bigger, and it's so awesome because I believe Jessica mentioned you have upwards of 1,000 members, which is fabulous. That's amazing. So the question is, how do we take our organizations of so many people and build that and then organize that to be active in our communities? So organizing is the process of developing a culture of solidarity, bringing people together to identify and study the problems that affect them. And it's a process of building relationships first and foremost. And I heard Emma already say that and talk about that a little bit. So that's what we want to talk about specifically with you, and how we approach that in certain ways at Surge. So if we go to the next slide, we can talk a little bit about the cycle that we use. So there's an image there for us of organizing cycle around a campaign. You'll notice that it is a circle. So one of the things that I want to point out, that if we as organizers ever feel stuck in this cycle of action, getting to one-on-ones, base building, connecting people, and research, looking at an issue, analyzing it, building power. When we feel stuck, it usually means that we've taken the circle and we've flattened it out into a line. We've stopped doing the circle part. So we've stopped that cyclical piece sometimes, and that's when we start to feel stuck. And what I want to do is, if whoever is doing tech, wonderful tech person, if you could just click, you're going to see that on this slide, there'll be 3 things that get highlighted. And those are the pieces that are the in-between parts. A lot of times we're like, we need to have one-on-ones with people, or we need to take action and do this thing. But the way that we get there and continue the cycle is actually taking a step back and focusing on the process, not the product. So the spaces in between, like listening and sharing concerns. As an organization, if we're not collecting that kind of feedback, then we're not necessarily able to retain our folks in the same way, because we don't know what they're thinking or what their needs are. The other piece is developing leaders. The way that we keep an organization going and growing when we get new people is giving folks tasks and things to do. And then also thinking about this idea of distributive leadership, which means that we don't have this idea of like one person who's the head and the sage on the stage kind of thing. There's this idea that everyone has different skills and strengths. And so we want to rotate and distribute at appropriate times to say, hey, I know this person over here is really good at X, and now it's time to do X, so let's tap that person in. And then finally, that last part that's circled at the top is the evaluation and reflection time. And it sounds like that y'all might be in that kind of space too, of evaluating and reflecting, like, hey, like what's our next step of how to do this and how to organize, and taking a moment to pause and think about organization specifically, which is super awesome. And so we're so glad to be here, because the more that people can band together and we learn from each other, and the stronger we all are. So that's really awesome. And I'm going to pass it to Lauren.
Thanks a lot. And you can take us to the next slide. Whoever's on there too. So we talk a lot about kind of always having your organizer hat on. So how can I, any kind of, like, I heard a ton of like asks and tasks that some of the SVBC staff were offering earlier. And those like all sounded to me like opportunities for some of you all to take on some of those tasks, and then some to like teach some of those tasks to other people. Like we were at a retreat one time, and one of the surgers encouraged us to think about kind of investing in each other's learning and skill development, because then we're building the collective skills that we all can kind of use in this work. And the other thing I want to say here is people will not do a thing unless you invite them to. Like I think a lot of times sort of anticipate a no or have some anxiety about getting a no. It is totally okay for somebody to tell you no if you ask them, and also they will never say yes if you didn't ask them, so we want to make it easy for people to say yes. Earlier I was hearing Jessica say things like, I have script, I have email scripts, I have the materials if you can't, to do the pop-up stations, right? Like if you're bringing someone in, they aren't going to already know how to do it. They might not, set them up for success. How can you help them have the tools to, if you've done this before, how can you help someone else do it, but also give them some space to figure it out? And I think oftentimes people are excited. They want to be asked to be a part of things. And, especially if we can come up with like an ask that fits that person. If you're asking someone who like loves talking to strangers to come do the Energizer station, that's, pitch it to them, tell them, kind of why they're going to be excited about it. Can you take it to the next slide? So I'm going to think for a second about that kind of slide that Sarah had earlier on. I'm going to make a kind of extended analogy, okay? Advocacy is like I'm showing up to, my city council to ask them to build another bike lane. That's going to, in this analogy, this is going to be like I'm going somewhere by myself. I'm going for a bike ride by myself. Mobilizing is like, I'm now realizing that we used this slide before and I want to rethink it with a bicycle instead of a van, but I'm only thinking of that right now. So I'm hoping you all are going to forgive me on that. So mobilizing is like, hey, we're trying to, we're going on this road trip, and this road trip is like a campaign or a goal or like a new bike lane or that cool like Santa Clara, San Jose bike freeway thing that I heard about recently that I'm excited about. Mobilizing is like, I'm creating the plan and the roadmap, and I rented the van and I have all the seats, get in, just show up and be there. And then organizing is like, how do we really do this long term and not just this one time, this one trip, get everybody in, show up and go home, but like over time, who's driving the van, right? If I need a break on this trip, who's going to take over and who can drive the van when I need to step back and take a nap? Who's the co-pilot, who's holding the map and has the snacks and also knows who needs which kinds of snacks and who has food allergies and like who's keeping track of that? Who like made the map and even picked the destination or the route for how we're going there? Who's in the van? Are the right people in the van? Is there somebody who's not in the van who should probably be in the van? Who did like, that was this, I was hearing some questions or some notes earlier, right? Like how are we really getting to everybody in Silicon Valley who's impacted by bicycling, right? Who's paying for the trip? Who's doing maintenance on the van? How did the van even get here? And like, and where did this road come from? So organizing is kind of like trying to think through all of these different pieces and how they're all coming together. So it's not all on, one person or a few people or the same few people that have been doing this for like years and years. And at some point are going to need a little bit of a break, but they keep going. How are we going to bring some fresh folks in? All right, take us to the next slide. Central Bikeway, that's what it's called. And yes, I took the survey earlier today. Thanks. If anyone comes up with a good analogy for that van analogy, and that's bike based, I'm very open to that. And why do we have why are we spending all this time kind of talking about building relationships? It's because relationships is what keeps us doing this work when it's hard or when we don't get what we were trying to get, or when, speaking perfectly personally, over the past year, having a community of activists around me that I knew that I could trust, and also knew we were all sort of working on things together, and also knew I could step back sometimes and other people could step forward and we could all rely on each other, made a huge difference. You know, this is what keeps people in the work and keeps them coming back when it's hard. Yeah. Okay, take this to the next one. So we're going to take a little icebreaker. We spend a fairly decent amount of time in Surge on icebreakers, and we try to figure out how to incorporate this getting to know you stuff into everything you do. So we are going to go into a Emma, I think we said this to you already, and I'm hoping you're ready for it, but random groups, small groups, 3 people, random, it doesn't have to be geography based. We're going to give you 5 minutes, and you can either share a happy memory of your first bike, or what is one of your favorite places to ride your bike, and then as a group, can you come up with one more icebreaker question that you can use the next time that you have a meeting? And we'll give you about 5 minutes for that.
Okay, I'm creating them now and inviting people.
Thank you.
Awesome. And I've put those in the chat for everybody so you can reference them, those questions.
I'll set my timer too.
Looks like most people in this group are on mute.
Where can I find the Palo Alto team?
Hey all, I think this is the main meeting, and so if you want to join a breakout room, you can click on the bottom where it says breakout and join breakout.
Okay, they put me in room 9, which seems to be San Jose or some other place, so,
Yes, that's okay. It won't necessarily be your group. This is just a random group to have a chat.
okay. Will we end up in our local team later?
Yes, you'll do that after 6 o'clock.
Oh, okay, thanks.
No worries.
Okay, that was funny. We got 3 questions answered. Oh wait, 2 questions answered. And we came up with a question, so that was awesome. Thank you.
What did you come up with? If you had any ones that you're particularly excited about, or just want to share with everyone else, drop them in the chat. And then you are now going to have a whole list of questions that you can pick from next time.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren, and thanks, everybody. Feel free to keep the chat rolling as we transition to the next thing. That was just one example, and those were lighthearted questions, but we spend actually a lot of time in Surge doing stuff like that and then going deeper. So thinking about, what are easy entry questions to get people started? And then as you continue and you're building, like maybe throughout a meeting, how can you think about questions that go and drill a little bit deeper, that ask people to be a little bit more vulnerable. And the more vulnerable you are, the more opportunities we have to connect with people. And that is what makes us stay. Come for the cause, stay for the people. So we can go to the next slide. I'm going to talk a little bit about how Surge thinks about advocacy. So we have all these people, they're excited, we're here, and what do we do with them? How do we get stuff done? And how do we not just get stuff done, which are tasks and things that are kind of like the organizational stuff, but how do we show up for the causes that we care about? And so the big thing around that is thinking about power. And where is the power and how do we utilize power to leverage those actions, particularly when we're thinking about accessing our local representatives in the government. So you'll see this quote, what is power? In general terms, it's just the ability to make happen what you want to make happen, even in the face of resistance. And so for Surge, we're a racial justice organization, and we know that we're always working against systems of racism and systems of white supremacy. That's something that we work through as a society. So we know that there will be resistance, and we expect that. And when we think of how to leverage power, we're weighing those things so that we can basically combat resistance, because we know that that's always a part of the energy of change, and advocacy work is always about change making. So we want to get on the same page about theories of power and social change. And we're going to talk a little bit about that because we know that progress doesn't just happen. It's slow, and as you get more people involved, it becomes a little bit slower. So we can go to the next slide and talk about different kinds of power that everybody has. I'm looking at the time, so I'm gonna cruise through this part a little bit faster so that we can get to another opportunity for folks to talk to each other. And that is very simply, everyone has two kinds of power. We have the power to get together in masses and groups, which helps push power towards that group of people, and also disruption. So how can we interrupt the process or interrupt the status quo of what's going on? And you'll notice on the left-hand side of the screen, those purple circles say, how do you get people together? How do you get people to disrupt and people who are willing to disrupt? Well, it's through organizing. And so those are the things that Emma started us off at this meeting talking about. What are some organizing techniques? So if we go to the next slide, we're going to look specifically at a theory of power that's based on civil rights organizing. And that is how to tip the scale. So if we think about society and we think about social justice or any kind of civil rights, and we think about the status quo maybe as a seesaw, the status quo is keeping things even, or even I would say, keeping the people who are in power or who are in dominant identities are a little on the heavier side. And so if we want to shift that and we want to shift power to people or to people who are oppressed in order to liberate them, then we need to think about the cost. So you'll notice there's ideological resistance on one side and concession costs. So how hostile are those in power to the changes that you're asking for? That's a question to ask. And that's what we need to know as we're targeting folks. So for example, when Surge is targeting different council members, we have a campaign for police-free schools right now, for example. We get to know who are the players, who are the folks on the board for San Jose schools, and know kind of where the stances are, because we want to know where the ideological resistance is coming from. And then we have to think about concession costs. So how much does it cost, not necessarily economically, but sometimes that can be the case, for those in power to agree with the movement's demands? And so obviously the big part right there is the disruption cost, is the ability of the movement to create an effective action against the target. So when that becomes large enough, that's when we can tip the scales. And so you'll start to see that in our local government, or actually Oakland just had a really big win right now. They were able to establish a mental health group that would show up for mental health emergencies rather than police. So that's something that's really cool. That's been a win for Oakland, and that just happened this week because of folks who are organizing up there in Oakland. So when we start to tip the scales, that's when the disruption costs are now on the little heavier side. So we talked a little bit about relationships with Lauren and the value of spending time doing that. It can't just always be business, because then you start to lose your people, because they're like, I already got a job. Where are my people? Where's the fun at? So having a balance of both is really important, but it's also important to remember that relationship building is where the power comes from in organizing and advocacy. So our next slide is an opportunity for us to talk to each other again, speaking of relationship building. So I'm gonna do a couple of things, and we're gonna try to put a few things in the chat to help everybody out. Again, you're gonna be in random groups, so don't be worried if you're not with your normal people. There's still time for that. You're gonna get introduced to some new folks. So what I'd like you to do is use this slide to look at a couple of things. Identify 2 to 3 people from your social circles. There's some examples of where those might be. Could be at work, could be just like the bike shop when you're just chit-chatting about bike stuff with somebody, friends and family, other organizations that you're a part of. We're going to go into breakout rooms again for about 5 minutes and actually role play and practice. What would you say about Silicon Valley Bike Coalition? You can even think about that a little bit later. What's the right kind of activity to invite each person to? How would you make your invitation to each person? And then this is also another great thing to think about. Remember, I talked earlier about resistance. We expect resistance and then we can prepare for it. How do you respond to excuses? Oh, I don't have childcare. Oh, I don't have time. Oh, I don't have a ride. Cool. You can bring your kid. Cool. I can give you a ride. You know, how do you respond to the obstacles that might be in folks' way to get there? So what I'm going to do is, again, so here's those questions. Think of 2 to 3 people that you want to invite. In the chat, what I've just put for you now are a couple ideas about what you can do in that 5 minutes with those 3 people that you have in mind. One is you can role play by asking, you know, just say it out loud, and then have the other people who are in your breakout room come up with excuses and, you know, just talk it out so that you can get practice. Practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes permanent. And so that gets you out of the amygdala, you know, freeze or flight. I don't know what to say. And it gets you into a space where you can really talk about something and feel prepared. I'm a science teacher, by the way, so I start getting a little bit geeky about that kind of thing. You can also make a list and plan for who to invite and how. So if you're just like, oh, I just need to brainstorm this right now and think, cool, that's your 5 minutes. You can also create accountability plan with the people that are in your group with you to check in. You're like 2 weeks. Hey, did you call those folks and invite them to our next meeting? Okay, well, maybe let's try to do that in the next week or so. So again, think of 2 to 3 people, and then you're going to do one of 3 things in your breakout group. Role play it out, continue to ponder and make a list, or create an accountability plan with the people who are in your group. And those 3 options for what you're doing are in the chat for you. So Emma, if you could go ahead and put folks in those breakout rooms, we'll do that for another few minutes. Hey Emma, how are we doing on time? I'm looking at our time and we only maybe have 2 or 3 more minutes to wrap up after this. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great.
Going great so far. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just looking, making sure all the rooms had more than one person.
Yes.
Hello, welcome back.
We're back.
All right.
Are back.
Hopefully that got some, creative. We had some good conversations in our breakout about how to invite people to like a bike ride. And then while you're on the bike ride with them, opportunity to talk more about what else you're trying to invite them to. I thought it was great. You can take us to the next slide. So, so I'm going to drop a link about this so that because we don't have a wild amount of time, but some of this has been about how and why we build relationships. And one way that we build relationships is through one-on-one conversations that are an intentional conversation with somebody, not perfectly structured and asking the exact same questions every time like an interview, but it does have a little bit of structure that you're not just having like a casual conversation with your friend. You're trying to find out like, who is this person? How might their interests and skills and all of that intersect with the work we're doing at SVBC, and how can I like bring them in, and what might be interesting and empowering to them. So I'll drop this link that has like a good kind of start for how to do some of those. Take us to the next slide. And then the other thing we just wanted to say was we have trainings on this stuff. Like Surge does a ton of trainings on not just definitely on relationship work, but also on organizing and how to speak at a public meeting and how to make compelling public testimony. Ooh, sometimes we have trainings on how to make cool graphics, like those cool graphics we were looking at earlier. So you can check out our calendar. Has all of those sort of events are open, or almost all of them are open to everybody. So you're welcome to kind of join us at that if you want to learn more. Did I miss anything else, Sarah?
No, just thank you so much for having us, and feel free to join us. Like, come to a Surge meeting just to check us out. Anyone and everyone is welcome, and definitely check out that calendar that Lauren just mentioned, because like I said, like she said, we do have one-on-one trainings. Like we have organizing training that we hold, and anyone's welcome to show up to those. It's all free, so just click on that link, and that would be great.
We're also sometimes looking for bicyclists to come to show up to protest and help do bike protesty things, which I love doing, and it's how Sarah and I first connected on this stuff. So yeah, send us a message if you want to do that. It was just really good to connect with you all. We want to see how more of our work can overlap. Thanks for having us.
Thank you guys so much, Sarah and Lauren. That was awesome. And I hope everyone enjoyed it. I know I did. I didn't get to participate in the second little breakout, but those were really awesome activities. And I think they'll be really valuable for all the teams moving forward. Thank you, guys.
We appreciate you all.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, thanks everyone for being patient as we're a little late for our local team meetings, but just want to give you a heads up that next month we'll be talking about Vision Zero, and John's already lining up some good speakers for that topic. And we do have our monthly meetings, and also save the date, the Silicon Valley Bike Summit will be August 12th. So that's our one-day conference type experience with lots of good speakers from maybe all over the world this time. We'll see, it'll be on Zoom, so we can do anything. And then that month for this forum, we're planning to not have speakers and just give you guys more time to meet and talk among your groups. Well, I'm going through the last of the slides. I think Sandhya is there. Sandhya,